Hey everyone, welcome back. Sorry, I probably should have made this just one long video for the embeds because I didn't realize how much of this I didn't actually record. But anyway, so this is going to be a interesting embed soap that I've never tried before, but it is kind of a play on the frame technique, except I really wanted this to be a bar that was like embedded inside, kind of like a jawbreaker, but just one color, not multiple colors. But anyway, it didn't really end up turning out that way, but that's okay. You'll see it at the end. It still looks pretty cool, but just not my intention. So anyway, what I have here is just a regular formula that I normally do with coconut oil and I think canola and castor and all that good stuff. And I'm adding the white mica to this because I want this to be more of a snow white bar with a pop of color on the inside. And so even though with the coconut oil, it's typically going to be a pretty white bar, I just wanted to add a little extra punch of the whiteness to it just to give it that extra brightness, just for that contrast. So anyway, just as a side note, if you're planning on doing embeds, it's really important to understand the thickness of your batter versus the weight of the embed that you're going to be using. So in the last video that I did, I had really small chunks of embeds, whereas this one I have these bars that you see here, these kind of pinkish red bars. They're still not heavy per se, but they are heavier than obviously little chunks, like little cubes that I had cut up. And so with this particular batter, I didn't get it super thick. This soap recipe doesn't really get thick very fast. So as a side note, it's actually a really good recipe to use if you're really not sure how a fragrance is going to behave or anything. So I did spend some time stick blending this just to get it to a serviceable thickness to pour into the mold. And so you'll see that I do have this slab mold, and it's already set up with my little chunks in there. And as I was pouring, I realized that some of these chunks were moving. So that's another point to what I was saying earlier about understanding the thickness of each of your things. So you can see I start going in between the cracks here just to keep them from moving around, because that equalization of pressure against each thing. But ultimately I finish pouring this here. There's nothing fancy, no swirls, nothing. It makes it dish cleaning a little bit easier, but yeah, anyway, so do that. And then I'm checking each one just to see if they're settled in the right place. I think at this point I had realized that I wasn't going to be able to get one embedded, but if I was able to squish it to the bottom close enough, I'd have maybe more of like a frame or like a picture box looking soap in the end. So after I settle all this and try to get the bubbles out of it and everything, it's still pretty thin, but I do put this in my oven instead of my makeshift hot box. So I put this in my oven at 170 degrees. It's the lowest that my oven will go, for about 15 minutes. And then I check on it and turn off the oven and just let it sit in there for a little while. That will force it to go through the gel phase, and that's what I usually like to look for. So I didn't film the cutting of this because there's nothing extraordinary about cutting something out of a slab, but this is kind of how it ended up looking. You can see that I didn't get like a full embed and that it just didn't look really good. But I did end up trimming off those weird alien edges and some other stuff just to make it look like a nicer bar. They were actually pretty thick bars because in combination with using my usual recipe plus the embeds, it kind of made the mold pretty full. So the bars are actually still about like 1¼ inch thick, even though I trimmed a bunch of stuff off. But yeah, so this is how they ended up turning out, and I ended up liking it a lot. It just looks like a little, I don't know, it does look like a frame, but some of the pieces are closer to the edge and some are, right in the middle. For the photo shoot, I did end up picking ones that were closer to the middle just to give that consistency's sake. But I do really like the randomness of each of these little cutouts. And it smells really good. I ended up using this green tea lemongrass fragrance on top of what was already fragranced in the pink red embed, and that was in watermelon. So you've got like a watermelon tea lemongrass fragrance, and it smells really good and fresh. So anyway, it does also look like, if you look really close to the picture, that there's like a seam there between the embed and the soap, and I think that might have to do with the fact that the embeds themselves were pretty hard versus the soap, which was softer. So I made those embeds a while ago, so they were pretty hard. I should have done it when they were still a little soft and more susceptible to the heat from the oven and all that stuff, but a lot of stuff has been going on, so I just hadn't gotten to it in time. But it seems to be working out okay. Like, it's not falling out or anything like that, and it lathers really nicely, and I really do like these bars. I think they're pretty neat. So anyway, this is the wrap up of part 2 for the embeds. I hope you liked seeing the difference there, because you can have, random ones that are pretty easy to do, and then you can be a little bit more strategic with your embeds. I'm not the most crafty when it comes to these embeds. I was just, I do like my swirls and stuff like that. And I've never really had great success with embeds, so I do really like the way these turned out, and I like the way the previous ones turned out as well. So I hope you did also. And if you do end up giving this a try, or if you are more of a veteran with embeds, let me know in the comments, and I would love to read about it. But that's it for now, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!